Dragon Ball Z Super Saiyan Son Goku, the Fighter of Rage from SHFiguarts, needs no introduction. Let's go. Standard box layout for SHF Dragon Ball, big cutout window showing the figure, some of the accessories, full color, promotional image, Goku doing the iconic glaring face, brand logos all around the bottom, Bandai, Tamashii Nations, Dragon Ball Z. This is the Tamashii Web exclusive or Premium Bandai exclusive logo, holographic Toei animation sticker, holographic Tamashii Nations quality sticker, intended for ages 15 and up, warning choking hazard, small parts, not for children under 3 years, designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan, Bandai Spirits, made in Vietnam, SHFiguarts, Super Saiyan, Son Goku, and this is a little hard to read, it says Fighter of Rage in English and Japanese. He has the dynamic movable shoulder system. The left-hand side just says the name of the figure. The right-hand side has some black and white detail photos showing his fist, this shouting face, which looks excellent, and an over-the-shoulder shot. Another black and white photo on the bottom, a tiny black and white photo on the top with a little window to let light in, and a clean color photo collage around the back showing the different faces, different poses, Frieza sold separately, the yellow accent color. Let's break him out. Sharp object, use an adult or an adult brain. Little instruction sheet showing the alternate hands. Don't lose the wristbands. The soft parts for his clothes may deform. How to swap the faces. The face parts from separately sold SHF Super Saiyan Son Goku. The legendary Super Saiyan can also be attached the same way, so we'll definitely check that out. Goku Fighter of Rage has 5 interchangeable faces, a scowling face, a cocky smirk, an extremely angry looking shouting face, this one's awesome, and then 2 specific gritting teeth faces. This one for when he's looking down, grabbing Frieza's wrist, and this one for when he first transforms and looks back over his shoulder. Very nice attention to detail. I love when they create faces from specific panels, frames. He has 2 beautiful fluffy Namekian Super Saiyan hair sculpts, a standard and a windswept, 5 pairs of hands, including fists, spread finger, open palm hands, clenched finger, open palm, Kamehameha hands, slightly differently clenched finger, open palm hands, and always essential, the martial arts stance posing hands. For comparisons, here are all the SHF Super Saiyan Gokus that I own at this point. Starting on the far left, we have the Warrior Awakening Super Saiyan Goku, a classic figure that definitely shows its age, but holds a certain collectible charm for me as such a stylish landmark figure for the line. And on the right, we have the Tamashii Nations 15th Anniversary World Tour Super Saiyan Warrior Awakening Goku. A really nice update, and I love that they matched the colors to Legendary Super Saiyan and Fighter of Rage. I think that's really nice as a cohesive Namek Goku set. Cell Saga Games Begin Goku, the Brick House Legendary Super Saiyan Goku, and the Fighter of Rage, which you can see is an all-new sculpt. The hair sculpt is sort of a spiritual successor to the Warrior Awakening, and even compared to like Games Begin Goku, the arms are a different sculpt. You can see the biceps are much bigger, the wristbands are separate pieces as opposed to sculpted pieces here. And yeah, it's amazing how far Tamashii has come from here to here. And Warrior Awakening Goku, I believe, was 2015. So in about 10 years, Tamashii have advanced, both in making the articulation much more seamless, more integrated, and really reaching a new level of accuracy. And in case you're wondering about head swaps, for some unholy reason, Tamashii made Fighter of Rage Goku's neck peg the exact same size as 2.0 Goku. So technically, the head will pop onto any 2.0 Goku body and vice versa, but you have to take into account the peg must go back into the head, which does hurt the articulation, but if you just want maybe an updated head for this body, I guess that works. It looks all right. The skin tone matches pretty well. Proportionally looks okay. The height actually works out all right. And I guess we'll see in a minute how a 2.0 head looks on this body. As promised, here's the best looking 2.0 head I could think of. Lowest born Saiyan Goku. It snaps right on, sits kind of high, and the skin tone doesn't quite match. It's funny, the lowest born Saiyan Goku's head is a little bit oversized. My immediate thought was it sits too high, but now my eyes are kind of adjusting to it in a weird way. The head being a little bit oversized makes sitting a little high seem actually right. But turning down the lights a little bit, you can start to see the difference in skin tone. But yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And for some Frieza Saga, here's Battle Clothes Krillin and Gohan, Old Style Battle Clothes Vegeta, and another classic figure, the 1.0 fourth form Frieza. And for some crossover comparison, let's swing into the Gamerverse with SHF, Spider-Man, and fellow Fighter of Rage, Wolverine. For articulation, Fighter of Rage is using the 9.825 body, and it is for the most part excellent. There's one expected annoying thing, and one surprisingly good update. Let's get the annoying thing out of the way first. He's using the Games Begin 90-degree dumbbell hinge neck peg again. There's also a ball joint from the neck into the body. I notice it's like flexing a little bit. Be careful with that ball peg going from the torso into the neck. Looking at it from the inside, it looks like a very thin post that the ball peg is on. So yeah, be careful and try not to push the neck, especially the lower neck articulation, too much. He looks up okay. It's not the best I've seen. It's not the worst I've seen. And man, he has all the looking down range in the world. Unfortunately, the faces do get pushed off. I do like how the neck curves forward like this. It gives you just a little extra control over the top of the spine here. I do think it could stand to go backward a little more, and maybe that would help with the looking up range. But as it is, they, for whatever reason, have really optimized for looking down. The head can tilt on the 90-degree ball joint. That also works really well, pretty much all the way till the hair hits the shoulder. And it moves relatively freely, but do keep in mind there's a hinge in there, so just be gentle and careful. Also featuring the adjustable neck length, which, I don't know, I don't get a whole lot out of this, but I can see how maybe some poses you want it to look like he's hunched down or really stretching his neck. It's an interesting idea. I definitely would like more looking up range first. The dynamic movable shoulder system is a ball hinge going into a socket piece, and the socket piece pegs downward into a socket that's connected at like the sternum and rotates up and down like this. Let's check it out. Hinging the shoulder up, it goes about that far. Nice cover piece comes out to hide the joint a little bit. Swivels all around. Gives you a huge amount of control over where the shoulder pivot is placed. So you can bring the arms way up and to the back so that you can like have his elbows tight to his side. The cover pieces are fairly soft. They're not quite as soft as some other figures. The back actually works really well. The cover pieces are fairly soft. They're not quite as soft as other figures though, and I think that's maybe just down to like the depth of the sculpt. Having this level of like folds and tears maybe requires a little bit of a thicker piece. I think it's a very good design. I don't really get the people who like mock it because it's technical. Like, of course it is, and it works really well. It gives a level of posability to shoulders that a lot of figures don't have, and I like it. Bicep swivel works as you would expect. Double hinge elbow bends about 135 degrees back. Standard ball hinge wrist joints. Position the hinge to angle the hands any way that you like. The floating piece tucked between the forearm and the hand. I do find the hands pop off a little bit easily, but the wrists hinge in and out, up and down, anything in between. The torso is interesting. It's basically a dumbbell joint from the chest down to the waist, and then it has this like soft cover piece at the abdomen. It moves pretty well, but there is a little bit of a problem with the lip of the abdomen piece getting caught on the upper torso. It doesn't go back a ton, leaves a little bit of an opening. You can maybe like adjust this piece as it is a floating piece. Yeah, there you go. You can close the gap off. 30 degrees going back, but now I'm going to have to kind of shuffle over the top. Good 45 or more going forward. I like to see that. Here you go. This is the abdomen piece. It's also soft PVC, but kind of like the shoulders, the plastic is just pretty thick, so it doesn't really flex a whole lot. And you can see it just threads over this double socket piece. And it can kind of rock back and forth this way. The belt is a floating piece. Side to side range. Maybe 30 degrees or so. The rib cage cut on the shirt kind of runs into the belt. Waist swivel is a little bit creaky, but not bad. It moves pretty fluidly. It's maybe a little bit tight. The belt tie is soft plastic and can swivel around to the extent allowed by the sculpt. This little fold kind of prevents it from going anywhere in this direction. The hips are a noticeable improvement over legendary Super Saiyan Goku, just in terms of the cut at the top of the leg and how seamlessly it meets the waist piece. You can see the direction that they were going in with legendary Super Saiyan, but admittedly it is a little bit too wide and can make his legs look a little bit bulkier. It's not the worst problem for a figure that's supposed to be bulky, but this definitely looks way more refined. I think they did a nice job with that. Let's see how the range of motion is. If you don't mind squishing the waist piece, you can really push it. I don't like pushing it much more than that, so it's only about 90 degrees of forward kicking range. Going back, he has a butt sculpt, so just a little bit of range going back, like 10 degrees or so. Both the hip and thigh joints are probably ball joints. There's not a lot of pivot on the ball joints, however, so they're mostly acting like swivels at this point. Side to side range, a little bit under 180, and you do get these like corners at the top of the inner thigh. Games Begin got about the same range, but you can see the difference in the cut means this is a little bit smoother. Both of them have a bit of a wedge taken out though, so I don't know, you can kind of pick your poison. This is a more jagged, angular sculpt. Let's compare legendary Super Saiyan. He gets the full 180, but you do get this like square opening right here. And if you don't like that square opening, you can just close the hip a little bit. And I noticed that brings it basically to the same point as Fighter of Rage and Games Begin, and it makes me wonder if they've started limiting the sidekick range just to prevent this opening from appearing. And Tamashi's been known to limit articulation in places in order to prevent the sculpt from getting too broken up. The thigh swivel, if you thread it inside the butt plate, gets a little less than 90 degrees towards the outside, maybe 5 degrees or so to the inside. Not a ton, but don't need a ton there. The knee joints are pretty interesting. They're asymmetric, and this side is technically a double hinge, I don't know what's going on this side because it's all enclosed in the pants, but I mean, you can just see how like perfectly seamless it is. Let's look at his left knee first. It's pretty standard Games Begin Goku style knee. It gets maybe 120 degrees kicking back on its own. I think this looks excellent. This is the shape you want at the top of the kneecap when the knee is bent. You want the pants stretching over the kneecap, and this design does that so much more effectively than any of the like 2.0 folded kneecap designs that had to look good in this pose and this pose, and they basically just picked this one. So yeah, this works great. I think the knee bend range here is basically the same as Games Begin. Let's see how it compares. Legendary Super Saiyan has double hinge bare kneecaps, and they get maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 degrees more. However, the secret weapon of this figure, unlike Games Begin Goku, whose boot joint is a hinge that only goes forward for some reason and doesn't help the knee bend range at all, Fighter of Rage has a ball joint, and this is the pleasant surprise I was referring to. It's not perfect. I notice it kind of gets stuck on the pants sculpt, like there, but it is biased for angling the boot back, which does improve the knee bend range a little bit. It catches up that extra 10 to 15 degrees that legendary Super Saiyan Goku had on him. So that's pretty great. The right leg, this is pretty cool. I've noticed the top hinge always activates first, which is good because the kneecap rotates into position. Then the bottom hinge activates. And it works really nicely. It almost makes me wonder if both legs actually have double hinges and they are just hidden inside the pants, given how similar the range and function is here. But you can see the knee bend combined with the boot gives you exactly the same range on both sides. Looks really nice. Really pleased with this. It works super well. And since the boot's on a ball joint, it can also pivot a little bit forward. Not quite as much as Games Begin, but I don't know, that had kind of limited utility for me anyways. And it's still similar. It can pivot side to side. Going to the inside is actually pretty cool, as it kind of helps you put more curvature and tension into a wide stance pose. Finally, he has ball hinge ankles, and they work really well. Combined with the boot joint, it gets parallel to the leg easily. A little more limited going forward. Really solid ankle pivot. Just goes up, and it can help grounding the back foot in poses. It looks really natural. And overall, the articulation is pretty solid. Annoying thing I expected, the neck. And a nice surprise, ball joint at the boot. The quality of the figure feels really good. Everything is pretty sturdy and smooth. The articulation's very fluid. Nothing is too tight or too loose. The only real issues I have with the engineering of the figure, the neck hinge design just remains very not fun to swap. The faces tend to slip off. The shirt can get caught on itself a little bit. The hands come off a little bit easily. But apart from those things, it's just a really nice figure to handle. Just be aware that it's pretty spiky. That kind of comes with the territory. Don't make any sudden, forceful movements, and you'll be okay. The construction of the figure is simple and clean. The only visual gripe that I have is the shiny, unfinished, bare skin tone plastic. But apart from that, I think the figure looks fantastic. The sculpt is super solid, and like I mentioned, he's like a little bit bulkier than Games Begin, especially notable on the biceps, the forearms. This is near-death experience, Room of Spirit and Time, Goku in full control of his power. This is primal, out of control Goku, and the sculpt does a great job conveying that with these like jagged, chaotic tears on his clothes, the scuffs and scratches that are all throughout the figure, consistent on every part down to the hands and feet, faces and neck. I guess the hair doesn't have any, but that would be strange. So yeah, really a beautiful sculpt. One of Tamashi's best looking, could probably be mistaken for a statue, and not because it doesn't articulate, which I mean as a compliment. Most of the figure is bare molded plastic, and I tend to prefer that for anime and manga series where there's cell shading instead of gradient shading in the source material. And that even includes like this little pocket of skin tone poking through the tear in his shirt. The shirt is a soft PVC overlay, and there is a partial chest molded in skin tone underneath, so you get perfect color separation. Same thing applies to some of the tears on his pants, but not all of them. This one is skin tone molded plastic. This one above the left knee looks like painted skin tone. Same for the tiny one below the left knee. And then the right knee joint is molded skin tone, but the little pocket of skin color at the top of it is painted, as is this tear on the side of his right thigh. Very nice darker yellow shading in the creases of the hair. This is the base molded color for the hair. There's some light orange highlight overspray on the pants. It's on the front. It actually does continue around the sides, but in classic Tamashi fashion, no paint on the back. People are complaining about this like it's a new thing. Guys, they've been doing this since like 2014. I don't think they're going to change it at this point. If you're going to complain about it, at least acknowledge this is how they've been doing it for a decade. And it's not a new problem that's suddenly a big deal. I think the belt is probably 2 soft PVC parts, a blue band, and then the remnants of his torn outer orange shirt, which also seems to have a little bit of that highlight overspray on it and looks really good. The wristbands are just separate pieces, and you can actually just completely take them off if you wanted a pair of bare arms. I'm not sure what these would be compatible with. The wrist maybe looks a little skinny without them. Is this the first time we've gotten bare arms in SHF Dragon Ball? Might be. There's always some kind of glove or wristband. And finally, Goku's boots are Goku's boots. They're molded blue, painted yellow stripes and red string. He has yellow stripes and red string during Namek. I think it's red stripes and yellow string most everywhere else. Not sure why that changed, but it's accurate to the series. And the stripes are painted on really cleanly. And then the soles of the boots are painted like a grayish brown. And they're pretty clean. You can also see the Vietnam factory's batch identifier or something. 4 dots means this is an original release. I really love this hair sculpt. I didn't necessarily mind the legendary Super Saiyan hair sculpt, but this is undoubtedly more accurate to the way it was drawn in the Namek arc. And while we have legendary Super Saiyan here, the faces are supposed to be compatible, so let's check that out. Here's a look at the head connections. Fighter of Rage on the left, legendary Super Saiyan on the right, and you can see Fighter of Rage added these pegs on the ears just to keep you from using these faces on legendary Super Saiyan. But let's see how legendary Super Saiyan's face looks on this body. Ooh, I like that quite a lot. I think I like that more than the smirking face that this comes with. We'll take a look at that in a minute, but it's a little toothy for me. I think this looks really good. And if you want to go the opposite way, Fighter of Rage on legendary Super Saiyan, the top of the face plugs in. Just know the ears aren't going to plug in, so there's going to be a gap, or you'll have to trim the pegs off the ears, which I'm definitely not going to do, but I imagine a lot of people out there probably will. That also looks great. And I actually like the serious face a little better on Fighter of Rage, so that's what that one looks like on legendary Super Saiyan. Pretty good. Here are the 2 serious faces side by side. And I think this just looks more like Goku to me. Here are the smirking faces. I think Legendary Super Saiyan maybe takes this round. This one's not bad, just like a little toothy. I don't know what they were trying to do with making the mouth completely white, but I think a black line might have served this face a little bit better. These two gritting teeth faces are pretty neck and neck. This one's looking down, this one's looking straight ahead, but I think both are really good. This is probably my favorite Legendary Super Saiyan Goku face. And here's the second gritting teeth face for Fighter of Rage. LSSJ has just one gritting teeth face. And the two shouting faces are actually pretty similar. They both have big, wide open mouth, tiny, angry pupils. I think Fighter of Rage maybe takes this one just in terms of the shape of the chin. You can see it's pulled back a little bit towards the neck. I think that more accurately captures how the jaw opens. Legendary Super Saiyan kind of looks like he's both opening his mouth and like jutting his jaw forward. It's not bad. This one's just maybe marginally better. The paint in the mouth you can see is also a little bit sharper. And I think that's partly because it's an insert. You can even see there's like some shadow in the center of his tongue there. That's really detailed if you look closely. Let's do that. With some light, you can see all the way to the back of the mouth. That's pretty cool. That looks good. And Legendary Super Saiyan is no slouch. I think this is still a really good face as well. It just doesn't have quite the same depth and detail in the open mouth, but still really good. And even though it seems like you ought to be able to at least put Fighter of Rage faces on the Games Begin Goku, since it has a similar peg layout minus this middle one, usually taking a peg away is okay. Not without some modification. As you can see, this corner above the ear runs into the hair and prevents the face from pegging in all the way. So if you wanted Games Begin with a smirking face, that doesn't work natively. You'd have to cut some stuff away, and I'm not going to do that. Likewise, this little rectangular peg is going to block putting Games Begin's face on Fighter of Rage entirely. And that's the wrong arc, silly. This is the Namek Saga. You gotta put Namek Goku's face on Namek Goku. And as I mentioned, the neck pegs aren't compatible, but even if you did a full head swap, the skin tones don't match either. So, despite graciously letting us put Legendary Super Saiyan's face on this new Goku, and not the other way around, Tamashii remains mostly anti-compatibility between the figures. I don't know if that's to keep people from mixing the parts up, or keep people from kit bashing their way to figures that Tamashii wants to make separately later. Probably a bit of both. And something I really appreciate, they've resculpted at least some of the hands, including the spread finger, open palm, blast hand, which I think makes a big difference here. You can see just how much more tensed the fingers are on the new one. To this point, I think Legendary Super Saiyan, the Ultimate Gohan, had this kind of, semi-relaxed spread open finger hand, and it looks a little too relaxed for firing a Ki Blast. This one, I think, is a really nice middle ground between this pose, which has a little bit more of a gesture to it, and the 2.0, which is just like a flat pancake hand. This one still has a little bit of a gesture. You can see the pinkies curled a little bit, but they kept the finger tension, and I think it works out a lot better for that. Similar note applies to the Kamehameha hand. A little too much slack in the Legendary Super Saiyan's fingers. Lots more tension, and a more specific, claw hand for Fighter of Rage. You'll have to let me know. I'm not sure if this is the first time we've gotten these hand sculpts. They do have the battle damage marks on them, so I'd be surprised if anybody else... This is a little hard to pick up on camera, but you can also see the sculpt is a little bit sharper on the smaller features like the pinky fingernail on Fighter of Rage, compared to Legendary Super Saiyan, which kind of loses the fingernails on the smaller fingers. And if you wanted to use Legendary Super Saiyan's hands on Fighter of Rage, you can set it on there, but it doesn't snap because the peg is smaller. Here's a pose that I think takes advantage of a lot of cool things about this figure. You've got the boot joint giving some tension and curvature to the leg, his neck pushed all the way forward so that he can look down between his legs to start blasting. I love the range of motion in the shoulders, but also just how fluid and how clean this like rounded silhouette is when he's pushing both arms forward. If it's not obvious by now, this figure is pretty great. Maybe an all-time great for the SHFiguarts line. Maybe the most iconic image in Dragon Ball, and some of Tamashi's best work rolled into one. It's a premium Bandai exclusive, which means it was made to order and probably not coming back anytime soon. The only time they've reissued P Bandai figures is special anniversaries or future event exclusives. So if you're kicking yourself for missing the pre-order, it's one of the few circumstances where I kind of recommend just eating the 10 to 20% markup at this point, because altogether, this figure feels pretty essential. It's not perfect. I think the biggest complaint I have about it, you can see now, the glossy, bare plastic on a lot of the skin tone parts just looks unfinished. I think a matte coat really would complete the look for this figure, so I don't know why they didn't do that in this case. For such a iconic figure, you'd think they'd want it to look as good as possible. That's a little bit of a disappointment, but apart from that, I mean, this is one of the best sculpts, both in terms of accuracy and just in how seamless they made the articulation cuts. The premium Bandai price on this was maybe a little bit steep. It doesn't come with a heck of a lot more than the $38 Games Begin. However, you can see it is a much more intricate figure, much more detailed. It is a much more specific sculpt that they're probably not going to reuse anytime soon, although they could use it for like Ultra Instinct Omen or really any version of Goku. I think the accessories here are great, but I do think they missed an opportunity to make a mid-transformation face with the black hair flowing up and the eyes whited out. But overall, super iconic look, very well executed figure, all-time great SHF Dragon Ball territory. This has been the Art of Action Figures, looking at Super Saiyan Goku, the Fighter of Rage. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.